Toni Braxton wasn't just holding the mic. She was holding her whole family on her back. And now she's finally letting the world know it. For years, people whispered that Toni was the real engine behind the Braxton name. But hearing her say it out loud hits different. I know the burden on you is the one that made it out. But you've got to be willing to let them fly. I feel like I do. I feel like they don't let me fly. She carried the weight financially and emotionally, and it's been breaking her down in ways the cameras never caught. From a young age, she had to move like a grown woman, performing, providing, protecting, while certain folks in the family sat front row, enjoying all the benefits without doing a single thing. $170 million in sales and you got $1,972. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. That's true. And now Toni is completely done playing the nice big sister role. Behind all that sparkle on Braxton family values was pure chaos. They tried to hide resentment, entitlement, and a family so used to leaning on Toni that they forgot she was a human being, not a machine. And the part that shocked everyone, she straight up singled out Trina and Towanda for crossing lines you don't cross with family. She said they were out here taking from her, touching things they had no business touching and leaving her with even less peace than she already had. That kind of hurt doesn't go away with money, fame, or a cute photo op. Fans thought they were seeing sister goals. But behind the scenes, Toni was drowning while still being expected to feed, house, support, and basically hold everyone together like she wasn't falling apart herself. About 13 or 14, my mom, she had a really bad accident. She fell and her back was really messed up. So, she was in the hospital for a long time. And so, I was a surrogate parent for a moment. Where was Dad working? I had to make a living. I had 6 kids. This situation is wild, and trust me, there's a whole lot to unpack because this Braxton comeback is messy. So grab your popcorn, get comfortable, and let's breathe again because this drama is hitting every corner of the internet. Toni Braxton always looked like she had life handled. The voice, the Grammys, the glow, the superstar aura. But behind those trophies and glossy magazine covers, she was low-key hating the life everybody thought she loved. Before anything else though, let's keep it real and put serious respect on Miss Toni Braxton's name because she earned every inch of that crown. While some folks were still figuring out how to walk, Toni Braxton was already stacking Grammys, shutting down charts, blowing up red carpets, and redefining R&B excellence like it was nothing. And she was doing all that while holding down a family that treated her success like it belonged to the whole block. People call her an artist, but honestly, she's a straight legend. 7 Grammys, over 70 million records sold, and a voice that can make you cry in the club or catch the spirit in church. That's real range. But the painful part, after all that work and all that greatness, she doesn't even have much to show for it today. That's the kind of story that stings, especially when the world thought she was living the dream. It all goes back to Sever, Maryland. 6 kids, a gospel-singing mama, and a household full of big dreams. And if they weren't leaning on you, what would your life look like? What would you be doing? I would have soared higher. Toni was the oldest. And everything shifted the day their mother got into a serious accident and had to stay in the hospital for a long time. Toni's childhood didn't just end, it vanished. She stepped into the role of caretaker overnight, making sure everybody ate, slept, and had a roof over their heads like a full-time guardian before she even had a chance to breathe. And while she was holding the family together, their dad was out working non-stop, trying to keep the lights on and bring in whatever money he could. This is where the struggle really began and where Toni learned the world was about to demand way more from her than anybody her age should ever handle. When Toni's career blasted off in the 90s with those legendary tracks, Unbreak My Heart, Breathe Again, all those timeless bangers, the whole energy at home flipped overnight. Instead of cheering her on, certain folks in the house reportedly started treating her like she was a walking ATM, not a sister. Toni recently opened up about how drained she's been for years, emotionally, mentally, and especially financially. She said she wasn't just carrying the Braxton name. She was carrying the Braxton bills, Braxton car notes, Braxton rent, Braxton emergencies, Braxton drama. I read that you were upset about stories that your overspending caused this cause, it would appear, and you can explain to us whatever you want to explain to us, But it would appear that even if you don't believe that you got the percentage that you felt that you got, you still knew that there was a certain amount of money coming in and eggs are exactly, and you overspent that amount of money. Well, I was doing math. 1 + 1 is 2 all day long all across the world. The whole Braxton economy like it was her job, and she handled all of it. Every business idea that flopped, every project that didn't make it, she funded it without complaining. She didn't drop exact numbers, but she made it crystal clear they rinsed her pockets until nothing was left. Now, Toni doesn't always say names in every interview, but the streets have been saying the same thing. Trina and Towanda were way too high up that list. And the part that hurt her the most wasn't just the emotional weight. It was the fact that they wanted to get paid just to work with her. Imagine that. Meanwhile, Tamar, and as unpredictable as she can be, was out here helping cover things without asking for a single dime. That's real loyalty right there. One insider even spilled that when it came time to perform, Tamar sang back up for free. No questions asked. But Trina, she wasn't moving without an invoice. And yeah, Towanda was technically working as an executive assistant, so she got paid for that. But even then, Toni said she wasn't getting real help the way she needed. And then came the line that broke the internet when Toni said, "I could have soared higher if I didn't have to carry so much. That happened because I allowed all my finances to become everyone else's finances. That's pretty much how I got here." That hit like a punch to the chest. That's not shade. That's truth wrapped in pain. This whole situation is deeper than fans ever imagined. And Toni finally letting some of it out is shaking the table in real time. This whole Braxton situation is just starting to heat up because what began as one sister breaking down is about to explode into a whole vault of Braxton secrets. The lies, the drama, the hidden tension, and the truth behind Tamar predicting this mess years ago, all of it is cracking open right now. And trust me, once Toni's world started shaking, it wasn't any light drizzle. It was a whole storm pouring on her life. And this wasn't the cute kind of drama people gossip about. This was emotional chaos. Financial chaos, physical stress, everything hitting her at once. Remember, during this time, Toni was a full pop icon fighting to keep her spot in a brutal industry that doesn't care about your feelings. She was under non-stop pressure, holding up a whole family while barely holding herself together. And folks were still out here disrespecting her when she needed support the most. None of my siblings have helped me take care of my mother to make sure she was okay, except for Tamar. No one said this before Vincent. Before Vince, Mommy's car insurance is due. Let's help Toni with Mommy car insurance. Now, if you're thinking, but she sold over $170 million worth of records. She should have been set for life. You might want to sit down because you're not ready for what really happened. Toni was out here making literal pennies per album. 35 cents per album to be exact. That means she was feeding an entire record label while her own pockets were basically empty. Imagine being the face of success, the star of the show, and still going home with nothing. And when she finally had enough and said she wasn't letting the label play with her anymore, she took them to court in 1998. But here's the twist. Just 8 weeks later, she was forced to file for bankruptcy because of how twisted that contract was. And let's be clear, it wasn't because she was out here spending wild. It was because she was trapped in a predatory deal that made her pay back the label for everything. Travel, studio sessions, outfits, music videos, all of it. Toni wasn't living rich. She was fighting a system designed to drain her dry, all while carrying a family that kept adding more weight to her shoulders. Cause at this stage in my life, I'm exhausted on my sister's behavior. Toni Braxton was basically financing her own fame, paying for everything up front and then paying it all back again, only to end up with almost nothing. And the world didn't even understand how bad things were until that now infamous Oprah interview. An interview that turned into one of the roughest moments of her career. You'd think a queen would show real love to another queen going through a crisis, right? But instead, Oprah sat Toni down on national TV and hit her with one of the coldest, most condescending, "How are you broke if you're famous?" conversations ever seen on daytime television. Toni walked in hoping for compassion, but what she got was straight humiliation. The backlash from that interview flipped public opinion against Toni hard. And here's the part that shook everyone. Word on the street is Oprah allegedly tipped off Toni's label before the episode aired, warning them she might expose what was happening behind the scenes. Who even does that? It felt like her loyalty was aimed at corporate suits instead of the woman sitting right in front of her. The interview wasn't just awkward, it became a career setback. Toni tried to push forward, tried to get her momentum back, but then life hit her with another punch in 2010. She was diagnosed with microvascular angina and lupus, serious health issues that forced her to cancel her huge Las Vegas residency, one of her biggest money moves. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Her insurance didn't cover the Vegas shutdown, which meant she had to cover everything out of pocket. Production costs, lighting, musicians, hotel rooms, salaries, every single expense landed on her shoulders. All that money vanished in a blink, and Toni was left picking up the pieces again while dealing with her health at the same time. Toni was already fighting for her life. And then boom, she had to file for bankruptcy again. It felt like every time she caught a little break, something came crashing right back down on her. And just when people thought her situation couldn't get any heavier, the IRS and the California Franchise Tax Board pulled up uninvited in 2010 like, "Run us our money." They weren't playing with her at all. Matter of respect. I respect where people are. That's just that, I respect where people are. I don't engage. I don't pour into certain types of energy. I make different choices in my life, and that's just where I am. According to court documents that gossip sites got their hands on, the IRS filed the first lien right before the new year. On December 4th, they claimed Toni owed $340,252.99 in back taxes for 2007. But that wasn't even the end of it. A few days later, the California Franchise Tax Board hit her with another lien, $116,15464, bringing her total tax mess to $456,4763. Both the IRS and the state warned her to pay up fast or they'd start seizing property. That's the type of stress nobody deserves. But here's the part that really made people stop and ask how this even happened. Toni was still touring, still iconic, still out here shining, still working. So, how did a woman with her resume end up drowning in debt over and over again? It didn't add up on the outside, but behind the scenes, insiders say the story was way deeper. They claimed it wasn't just the label drama, health issues, or bad contracts. Toni was also carrying her entire family on her back. Bills, responsibilities, emotional support, every crisis, every problem, every emergency. She was the one stepping in. And allegedly, the same financial pressure she had been dealing with for years finally became obvious once their reality show cameras started rolling. This wasn't just one setback. It was a whole pattern of Toni paying for everything while trying to survive at the same time. Turns out the sisters were secretly heated over how much more Toni and Tamar were getting paid. And it got so tense that production literally had to pause filming. Things blew up so badly that Toni stormed off set and allegedly told everyone she was done. And honestly, can anyone blame her? After everything she's lived through, fame, sickness, exploitation, family pressure, public embarrassment, there's only so much one person can take before snapping. You can say Toni Braxton is still standing. But the real question is at what cost and in what condition? Because this feud between the sisters is not some cute little disagreement. This is decades of resentment exploding in real time. And let's remember something important. These are fully grown adults with voting rights, tax returns, and life experience. Still fighting over their sisters' earnings like it's some cafeteria lunch money beef. Forget the money for a second. The truth is the Braxton sisters just don't get along. How they even managed to film that reality show without throwing the cameras out the window is a mystery that should be researched. Because right now the Braxton household is way too real, blocking each other, calling the whole family toxic, cutting ties left and right. The drama has swallowed everyone, including Toni, who looks completely tapped out. Let's rewind to one painful detail. Before Tracy passed, Toni said they all promised to keep the peace for her, but nobody kept that promise. Not even close. Things are worse now than ever before. Reports say Toni is officially over it. Done with the fighting. Done with the chaos. Done with trying to hold the sisters together when they don't even try themselves. And here's the shocker. Insiders say none of her sisters showed up to support Tamar at her cooking show premiere. Not one person. Why? Because apparently a massive argument exploded just 2 days before the event and everything fell apart. And right after that, Towanda hit the internet, throwing subtle shade, posting, "To everyone who distanced themselves from me, kindly stay there." And it didn't stop there. Towanda went ahead and tied the knot with her longtime man Sean Hall after 9 years together. Toni and Trina stood beside her as bridesmaids, but Tamar was nowhere in sight. And that absence spoke loud without saying a word. It's clear the sisters are quietly choosing sides, and the split is starting to look real permanent. Then comes the tension from their own reality show. Someone asked Towanda how she felt about not having real access to Tamar anymore. And before she could even speak, Tamar jumped in saying Towanda just doesn't care about me. Tamar even added that she's always the one reaching out first and that Towanda only calls when cameras are rolling. That's a heavy accusation on national TV. Towanda, who's always moved with that calm but dangerous energy, hit back with a line that had everybody gasping. She said, "I don't pour into certain vibes anymore," which was basically code for, "I'm done giving tomorrow that sister energy." Then she doubled down, making it clear she's focused on her own household, her kids, and her man. Her man, period. That's a boundary that left no room for misinterpretation. And here's the part shaking fans up. Even though Towanda has always acted like the level-headed sister, it's looking like she's been playing a long strategic game in the background. According to whispers, there's been tension simmering for years. People say she leaned heavily on Toni during her divorce, especially when her finances weren't lining up. And yes, supporting your sister is normal. Everyone gets that. But Toni's tone lately sounds more used than supported. And that hits different. It's giving. "I held you down when you were struggling. So, where were you when I needed the same energy?" And the internet is going wild choosing sides. Some insist Towanda always had issues with Tamar, while others say jealousy might be involved because Tamar's career took off fast. But this isn't just a two-sister clash. This is a family-wide pressure cooker bubbling over. This mess is hitting everybody in the family, even Toni, the one who's been the glue for decades. She's been the supporter, the worker, the breadwinner, the backbone. But now even she's pulling back because the emotional weight is too heavy. People online are saying this non-stop family drama might have even made her health issues worse. And that's a scary thought. Fans are speaking up too. One person said, "We did not want the Braxton to come back just to see them arguing all the time. We want to see them loving each other. That's what we need to see." Another wrote, "Sometimes you just need a long break from your family. They sound like they need that break." And someone else added, "Toni is owed so much in so many ways." That's a statement that hit everyone hard. Then came a comment that cut deep. "It always begins with their parents, especially their mom. She needs to be blamed." That one had people debating for hours. But hold up, before going any further, we need to rewind and talk about Tracy Braxton and the real emotional cost of fame in this family. Because if we're being honest, Tracy's story was the most heartbreaking part of this whole Braxton saga. Before she passed in 2022, Tracy had already lived through a lifetime of pain. Everyone remembers how she got pushed out of those early music deals because of an early pregnancy. And yes, that pain cut deep. Even when she tried to smile through it, the world could feel she never fully healed from that moment. That wound stayed with her for years. And that pain didn't just sit quietly. It shaped her relationship with Toni in ways most people never understood. Makes it a little more difficult sometimes. I wake up every morning and I go, "Oh, did I dream it? Did I dream it?" And I have to remind myself, no, she's gone, but she's been here with us for 50 years. So, I try to relish in that moment. And I try to smile about it and just be grateful for the time you have. And you have to always remember to be kind to one another. We're sisters, so we're always going to fight. That's what sisters do, okay? Is the rite to passage, to fuss and fight, but in the end, we're always there. It wasn't just sister arguments or petty disagreements. It was layered. complicated, emotional history. There was love, no doubt, but it was a love that had been bruised over and over again, leaving scars the cameras never really explained. It was the kind of pain that never got a real chance to heal. And now with Tracy gone, all that unspoken history is just hanging there like a shadow nobody knows how to clear. So when Toni talks about feeling drained and dried out, yeah, part of it is money, but the deeper part is emotional exhaustion, guilt, grief, regret, and all those heavy feelings that hit even harder when someone you loved is no longer here to talk things out. When Braxton Family Values first launched, fans were excited and the brand looked unstoppable. But behind the scenes, that show was eating them alive. Imagine already having tension with your family and now cameras are in your face, ready to broadcast your worst moments to millions. That's not healing. That's pressure cooking every problem until it explodes. And then Toni drops that line that broke the internet. "I don't want to be the strong one anymore." That hit people in the chest. Every oldest daughter, every big sister, every go-to woman who carries everyone else's weight felt that line like it was written for them. That wasn't just a quote. That was a cry for help. Tamar looks like she's trying to heal in her own way, but Towanda's silence is loud enough to hear through walls. And with Tracy gone, Toni is probably realizing that life isn't waiting on anyone anymore. And if you ask me, this isn't some regular celebrity mess. This isn't about attention or views. This is about a woman who gave everything, love, money, energy, support, and finally said, "I'm tired." And she meant it. But hold up, because the plot just got wilder. Word on the street is that Tamar pulled the ultimate Braxton curveball. She brought her niece Ashley Braxton onto the new season of the show. That move shocked everybody. It's about to stir up old wounds, new tension, and a whole new chapter of drama none of them are ready for. This move from Tamar is shaking the entire family behind the scenes. And let me break down why it's causing such a storm. Ashley isn't just any niece. She's the same woman who came forward years ago with a story that completely cracked the Braxton family foundation. What she shared back then changed how people viewed the whole household. When Ashley was younger, she said Trina's then husband, Gabe, crossed major boundaries by sending her messages no adult should ever be sending to someone in the family. And Ashley didn't stay silent. She told her parents immediately, which is exactly what anyone should do. Her parents then told Trina. And at first, Trina showed love, apologized, and stood by her niece. The way families should. But as time passed, that support slowly shifted into awkward silence, then shade, then full-on tension. According to people close to the family, Trina later acted like Ashley should have handled the situation differently, and that misunderstanding created a giant crack between them. Imagine being young, confused, and trying to do the right thing, and still ending up treated like the problem. That type of pain sticks with you for years. Fast forward to today. Ashley has carried that hurt into adulthood and the family never truly repaired it. And now, in a move nobody expected, Tamar, who's had her own battles with almost every sister at some point, is bringing Ashley onto the new season of the Braxton. Not as a cameo, not for drama, but reportedly with a real storyline and screen time. Tamar says she's bringing Ashley on to show real support and finally give her space to tell her truth. And that is the plot twist nobody saw coming. Because adding Ashley into the mix is about to reopen old wounds, expose buried tension, and shift the entire family dynamic in ways they cannot control. Tamar said she brought Ashley in because she wanted her to feel like somebody in the family still had her back. But you already know how this family operates. Nothing is ever simple with them. Every situation has layers on top of layers. And just when one fire calms down, another one sparks right back up. The sisters are already beefing so hard that production had to slam the brakes and pause filming. And now that Ashley is stepping into the mix, everything is bubbling over again. Some people swear Tamar added her to the show just to stir the pot and light the place up. But Tamar says it's deeper than that. She said she wanted Ashley to know not everyone in the family turned away from her and that somebody still cared. So maybe bringing Ashley on could be about healing. Or maybe it's a recipe for even more chaos. Because this isn't just a niece joining a show. This is old wounds, old silence, old hurt feelings, old blame, and somebody finally saying, "I'm not holding this in anymore." And whether that brings the family back together or tears them apart even more, we're about to find out because the cameras caught everything. Honestly, this season of the Braxtons might end up being their realest and maybe even their final chapter, because the truth coming out this time is hitting in ways it never has before. And if there's one lesson in all this, it's that even the strongest people need someone to check on them, too. Because when the cameras shut off, the lights fade, and the glam disappears, what's left is the truth. And Toni has been carrying a heavy one for way too long. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, share the video, and I'll see you on the next one.